Here I've got the Scrooge from Neutral Labs. It calls itself a sequenced malfunction generator, which is a pretty apt description actually. But what does it mean? Well, if you were to ask me what it was, I'd describe it as a glitch machine, a bit like a 5-voice drum machine that produces glitches and weirdness. But as you might expect, there's a little more to it than that. There are 6 parameters we can apply to individual instruments on a pair-step basis using the 3 knobs on the top right. So we've got parameter lock-in pair step, pair voice across up to 64 steps per pattern, and each track can be set to any length from 1 to 64 steps. Plus, we've also got real-time control for live performance, and on top of the 5 voice tracks, we've got 2 modulation tracks and an external voice track, so that's 8 sequence tracks in total, and each of the 5 voices has got an individual output, plus it can be assigned to one or both of the main A and B outputs with this switch here, and we can select which modulation channel it uses with this XY switch. Also, along the top, we've got the poke trigger inputs for voices, so we can trigger them with external CV or audio, and we can sync to other kit via MIDI or using the clock input. And we've also got an external clock output, which also doubles as the external sequencer track trigger output. So there's lots of information firing at you here really quick. It's a 42 HPY Dual-Rack module that comes in this lovely standalone format in this attractive USB-C powered bamboo box, which is an upgrade to the Neutral Labs previous enclosures. I've got their ALMYRA2 here, which now comes in the same enclosure, and together they do make a very attractive couple. So it might be small, but there's an awful lot in here. We've got loads of connectivity. We've got the 5 voices, 8 tracks of sequencing, real-time control over here, parameter lock-in. We've got individual audio outputs. We've got individual trigger and audio inputs, audio triggering rather than an audio in. And we can save in this. We've got 16 banks, and in those banks we've got 8 patterns. That's 128 patterns you can save. But what's most impressive, I think, is that it's packed all this in this little space, but it's really easy to use. So first off, I'll just run through how it all works and what we've got on the front panel. So each of the voices has got a volume. We've got 2 parameters that we can change on each of the voices, plus it can go out of either A, B, and its individual voice. So its individual voice will still play if it's coming out of A or B. And then we've got these modulation selections. We've got if I play it, let's just listen to actually the first voice. So that's now coming out of A, which is going into reverb. Or we can have it clean. Leave it in the reverb volume. And then these change various parameters. You can hear that's changing the pitch, but the parameters change depending on the voice. They're all different voices, they're not all the same. So if we add the modulation, this is the X modulation, we can see there's modulation happening here. I'll explain modulation in a bit, but it's a separate track, X and Y, or two separate tracks, X and Y, in the sequencer, programmed in Y, or X, sorry. This is Y. Or neither. So let's put in this voice as well, shall we? And then add some modulation to that. We've got probability in there so they don't play all the time. You might be able to tell. And then clean. Let's add the others. So this is what's happening in that intro track. Let's put the other voices into the reverb. These into the reverb. So if we're playing live, loads of stuff to play around with. And then we've got these three knobs on the top, and these control 6 parameters that adjust each of the steps. So if we look at these, they've got 2 different parameters, an upper layer and a lower layer really. Press shift to access the lower layer, or layer 2. And each of these parameters is set on a per step basis. So let's just listen to the kick. So I'll adjust some parameters on that first note. So we're on the kick already. If I shift and voice 2, we're now looking at voice 2. And this is how you program it actually. You can see out of the 16 steps. It does have 64 steps. And we shift through the different pages with this button here, but this is only a 16-step sequence. So voice 5, and then actually I'll show you there, I've got modulation X on those steps and modulation Y on those steps. But let's go back to the kick. So we've got no modulation playing on there because this is on central. To change this step, or the values on this step, we've got various things. So this is like a volume, the first one. It's changing the voltage actually, so it changes the amount of modulation on the modulation tracks, but basically it's adjusting the voltage that's coming out of that step. If we have the shift pressed in, just click it once. This is now probability. Oops, so hold the step. 0 probability, or very little probability, 50% probability, and 100%. And you can see that the LEDs indicate where you are for everything. So let's leave it on 100%. If we come to this top one here, so we're now accessing the top parameter, and that's just the length of the note. So you can go on full, so all 16 lit. This plays for half the bar, so that's 8 steps. So each one of those on the length is a 32th, 1/32nd of the bar. So at 16, it plays half a bar. But what this means is that you can actually you can time what you're doing precisely. So that would be 1 beat, and that's 2 beats. That's half a beat, etc. So let's just leave it back where it was. I think it was on full. And then if we go into the shift mode, we've got ratchets. So and these aren't any old ratchets, these are like FM ratchets. And as you can set these per step, you can have almost like different tunings per step. So let's change this one. Probability is changing that one, so let's put the probability down on full. Cool. Let's put that back down again. And then this one is an envelope. Let's put that back onto just playing it straight. So if we come to this here, we've got an envelope. This is a gate. And you can hear there, it's building in. There's bits of modulation, different things happening there, so it's not quite as clear as it should be maybe, but... So we have an upward ramp, gate, and then a downward ramp. So if we put this on the downward ramp, we can see again with the LEDs where we are. So that's like a gate there, and then a little bit of a downward ramp. And then underneath that we've got I suppose it's almost like a sample and hold type thing where it chops it up and gives different levels for each of the different portions. So if I'll just play it so you can hear what I'm talking about. There we go. So it goes to almost just noise and stuff once we let's add some ratchets. So we do stuff like that, and then let's make it really short as well. So all sorts of stuff you can do with those. So volume, probability, length, ratchets, envelope, and FM bitty madness. But the most important thing to realize there is that you change that per step. You hit the step and then you adjust what the parameters are, just like electron parameter locking. If I want to get back to what I had before to start messing around with it, I'll just load that program in again. So shift, pattern 1. Now this control all is quite cool. Well, it's very cool actually. So those functions there will affect everything when I hit control all. So, and then revert back to what the saved or the last parameters that you have programmed in are. So make them all long, make them all shorter, then back to we'll revert back to what I've been playing. That's affecting them all. We don't have to affect them all if we don't want to. We could just affect one of them. So let's just affect that sort of kicky bass sound, shall we? So if we went into there, press shift, we can see they're all flashing because I'm affecting them all, but we're just going to affect voice 1 now. So it's all the other voices are still playing normally. It's only this one that isn't. Turn that one off. All those voices aren't affected because I've not affected them yet. Let's affect them. Bring this one back in, shall we? So that was the quick start guide, and actually if you know that, the rest of it just falls into place. But there's not a lot to know, it just all seems to make sense. There's nothing really to learn on it. Navigating around these buttons and the menus, well, I hesitate to call it menus because there isn't really any menus in here. Everything's pretty much obvious. The only things that you might have to refer to the manual for are the advanced modes, but let's just sort of run through it quickly. So to select a part that you're editing, and we can see these are the different parts. We've done this bit before, haven't we? Just going over it in case somebody's jumped to this section. So that's how you select the parts, and this is how you select the patterns. So selecting pattern 2, and well, that's the external part. Let's look at voice 1. Let's start afresh, actually, that'll be easier. So we'll go to change bank, we'll go to bank 16. We're on 1 at the minute, we'll go to 16. I don't think I've got anything in there. Let's go to shift pattern 1, go to voice 1, pattern 1. So we've got nothing in there. Let's make that a bit longer like we saw earlier, just to... Let's add something on voice 2. Cool, let's add something on voice 4. It's that simple. And then obviously we can go and change parameters on each of those notes. So just for the hell of it, let's just change the volume on that. Let's reduce the volume, put a little envelope on the attack. Cool. That's it. Put them through the, is that through the reverb? Change the volume on that. It really is that simple, but that's quite a complex little beat. That's funky, that, isn't it? Cool. So to save that, we need to go to store, which is there. So function buttons. Odds that function is in white and the actual functions are in black. That confused me to start with. So let's go to store and we'll store it in pattern 1. So cool. Now hopefully it's stored, so I will go to function and actually I'll go to shift, pattern 2, should be nothing in there. Now let's come back to pattern 1. And we can copy and we can paste all that sort of stuff. So I could paste that into pattern 2, or I could just save it into pattern 2, but let's do something different with it. Don't really know what, let's add some. Press control, I'm doing this, remember. Yeah, I really like that. So let's paste that into number 2. So function, store, and we'll put that in pattern 2. Cool. Go to pattern 2. Back to pattern 1. Funky as that, isn't it? Actually, a nice tip for making lots of beats that work well together is using this Control Alt function. So take that. Sounds pretty cool. Now what we can do is we can commit that to the memory. So Control commit. So if we function Control commit, that's now saved in this patch. Save that as another pattern. So function store in 3. There we go. Go to 3. It's there. That was the original pattern. More complex pattern. And the one with the control. That means we can then take that one and do a backwards version of it. So let's save that to, or commit that to the memory. Just stop that for a second, and then function store. We'll store that in 4. So now we've got 4 versions of it. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Back to the first. Just a really nice way of making loads of patterns that work well together, that you can set the volumes of using this knob here and keep everything really under control. So you can have 8 different patterns, you know, within that one bank that all work really well together, all very slight variations of each other. But let's have a listen to that actually without going through the reverb, because I know we'll get told off for that. Cool. And as you can select as many of the voices as you want on that control all function, it means that you can get loads of different variations really easily. And it's also a good way of setting the parameters to be the same on every step for an individual voice, for example. So select control all, select the single voice, change the parameters, and then commit that to memory. Okay, then let's now take a look at mod X and mod Y. I've mentioned them on a few occasions. So we'll start with a new pattern, shall we? Let's go to function. Let's go to a new bank. Let's go to bank 15, and we'll select pattern 1. That's empty as well. Okay, I'm starting with a new one because it just makes life easier to show you what's happening. So let's just program in sound 1. So this sound here, and let's put something there and something there, shall we? So I'll do what I've done before just to make the note a bit longer so we can hear what's happening when I add the modulation. Same with that one. Now let's add some modulation to step 1. So shift, mod X. So we've selected mod X and we'll put modulation on there. So we'll see that light up when we play. Should do anyway. There you go. But we'll make that modulation longer. Now it does different things on different tracks, so I'm not sure what it's doing on track 1. Let's have a listen. Modulation X. Seems like it's changing the pitch or something. So let's change the voltage on that. Yeah, it's changing the pitch in different ways. Let's change the length of it again. Let's put an envelope on it. So that's added modulation on step 1 with these settings. I didn't do any of the layer 2 settings to keep things simple, but that modulation will now be the same for, let's put one of these on, a voice 3. Let's put that, whoops, select voice 3. So voice 3 will hit on step 1 as well. Let's make that long. Let's turn that off. Okay, so if we add modulation to this, it'll be doing something different. Oh, that's still one. There we go. So we change that modulation. We'd go in to change the modulation itself. So shift mod X, make the modulation shorter maybe, or let's change the voltage on it. So we can hear what it's doing there. It's a bit like a filter, is it? Was it pitching? Let's change the envelope on it. Again, you can see what the envelope's doing. That's like a gate. That's an envelope. Let's put some of this mad crazy sort of FM noise. And let's add some ratchets to the modulation as well. So now we've changed that modulation on step 1. Voice 1 will sound different than it did when we last heard it. There you go, it's got that new modulation on it. So the modulation per step is on the step itself, not per voice, but well, how would you do that anyway? So you're setting all the settings for the modulation on the step, but on each of the voices, it does something different. Won't save that one. I can probably do better, but if I want to try and do better and I haven't got time, random pattern. This is quite cool. Control random pattern. Try another one. Function random pattern, do it again. Cool, that's nice. Okay, let's take a look at all these functions we've got along the bottom. We have been using a few of them as we've gone along. This button here, if you just hit it once, you're into that control all function. But if you hold it, we go into the functions, everything's flashing. So you select the bank, we're on bank 15 at the minute, so we're still in bank 15. Function, length of the track. So let's create a track, shall we? So we'll go to make sure we're in pattern 1. What have we got? Nothing. So let's make sure we're in voice 1, and we'll do a standard 4/4 pattern. Shift voice 3. That's here. Okay, so if we then change the length of that track, so we're in track 3 at the minute, let's change the length of that, and we'll change it from 16 to, what should we change it to? What's that? 7. So we won't get the 4/4 for long. Just showing you really that you can change the length of the tracks. We've seen we look at controller commit, where we committed what's on the control all memory into the main beat memory. It got controller reset, so that just resets everything that you've been doing with that. We've got slow as well, so that creates a slow. Tempo, in fact, let's just show you how these things work. So press and hold function, go to tempo. We're in tempo mode now. We can change the tempo with the knob. Lots of them you can use this knob number 1 with, or you can just hit for a sort of randomish, not random, but you don't get very fine control. So go to tempo now, it's there now, hit it to there. So if we go back into tempo, we'll see it's up here. So let's bring it back to, I think it's somewhere around there. Function and micro, turns on microtiming. It's toggled on now, we can see. If we go to the functions, that's on, that's off. When microtiming's on, this secondary function on knob 1 becomes a microtiming amount, not a probability amount. So if we've got anything in this, no, let's put some, actually let's change the voice we're on. Let's go into voice out, voice 2, that's fine. So a little bit of a click, so let's hear that. So let's put some microtiming on these. So secondary function, and this is adding a delay to these, all the way up to almost the next beat or the next step. So there we go, got like a little swing going on there. Let's store that so we don't lose it. So function, store into pattern 1. And then next up, we've got like clear and copy. Clear will clear whatever tracks you selected through control all. I don't want to clear anything. So let's go to function and copy. We're going to copy the pattern, or you can copy just the voices, and we will copy pattern 1. You can also copy just a step as well using that function there. So that's now in the copy memory, as it were. We'll go to pattern 2. Nothing in there, so function, paste. There we go. We're in pattern 2. So let's save that in pattern 2, otherwise we'll lose it in pattern 2. So function store, pattern 2. So they've both got the same in now. We've seen random pattern, we've seen store. Next up, we've got the advanced section, as it were. So control, then advanced. I'll just show you a few things here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different things we can change in advanced mode. At the minute, they may change that in updates, but factory reset, firmware revision, hit that and I'll show you what firmware revision is. I've not done that. I don't want to disturb anything though. This is the external clock mode, so that will send out either external triggers from the sequencer external track, or it'll just send out a clock. This one is the PPQ of that clock. It's 104. I think that's set at 1 at the minute. If I hit that, let's toggle that to 4. Yeah. And then here we got the random pattern mode. The random pattern mode can be, as we had it before, just completely generating new patterns every time you hit it, or it can be sort of evolve new patterns. Maybe let's try a bit of that, shall we? So if we go back into this and let's hit, actually let's go into the pattern mode. Let's put it to evolve. Just check that's on. Yeah. So now if we come back into this, and then we'll do a bit of random patterning. Here we go. So that's nice. Gonna save that. Function store, put that into 2, because that was the same as 1, wasn't it? Do it again, random pattern. Now this is great. So I've not tried this before. Another way of creating really nice evolving patterns on like so simply. So function store that in 3. Do it again. Try it a few more times, shall we? That's cool. So function store, put that into 4. Great. I think this is a great little thing. I feel like it's more of almost a texturizer than a drum machine in its own right. It works really well with other clean, crisp drum sounds, which is why I paired it up with the 606. I'm just going to have a little, I've been playing with it with the Perkons that I've got hidden over here. If I zoom out, you might just see that. So let's have a little play with the Perkons. I'm going to use this little loop actually, because this is really nice and crisp. So I've literally not changed anything. I've just loaded the Perkons up. Let's play. That's all right, isn't it? For a didn't plan anything. Let's play one of the other. Let's go back to Bank 1 actually. So there you have it, the Scrooge from Neutral Labs. I really like it. I like the way that it brings lots of nice glitchy madness really simply, and I got into buying Eurorep bits of kit to do stuff that I couldn't do on the standard synths and the standard drum machines, and this massively falls into this category like you wouldn't believe, or maybe you would. Now you've seen it in action. So yeah, a great little machine. I highly recommend it actually if you're into making stuff that doesn't sound too normal, whatever normal is. So I hope you enjoyed that, and if you did, please do subscribe, ring the bell, join me over on Patreon. As you know, this channel is funded by affiliate links, YouTube ads, my wonderful patrons who, for the price of less than a dodgy coffee a month, get access to patches, samples, tutorials and all sorts of other little goodies. And I'll stick up some samples of the little glitchy noises from this in there as well. Obviously you're not getting the same experience, but you're getting some glitches you might be able to use here and there. Anyway, do take a look at my starskycar.com website as well. Again, patches, samples, things to buy, some free stuff. Nice if you buy some of the cheaper stuff. As I always say, it's nice to know people do support the channel, and it does all help, to be honest. So thanks for staying through the very end, and I will see you next time.